Joe Higgins is one of the organisers of the protest this evening. He is a member of the Socialist Party. He's also an MEP, just back from the flesh spots of Brussels. Joe, first of all, the numbers of people involved in this protest is very few. It's probably a few hundred at most. Given the scale of the cuts and the scale of the devastation to many people's lives, there doesn't seem to be a will on the part of the general populace, to protest about what's happened.
Well, in fact, Vincent, there were several thousand people here tonight. Many have left at this stage, but there are still very many here. And let's remember, a week ago, 60 to 70 or more thousand people marched in the streets of Dublin in opposition to the programme of savage cutbacks on living standards and services. So it's quite clear that there is enormous anger in society among ordinary people, and quite rightly so. We have a government now that has made a vassal state out of this country to the financial markets and the speculators at the behest of the IMF and the EU Commission, and then went in today and laid out their four-year programme essentially to drain the economic lifeblood of our people in order to pay tens of billions of gambling debts run up by international speculators that the Irish people have no responsibility for. So it's quite outrageous, and I see this just as the beginning, quite frankly. I think it will be intensified enormously in the next number of months. And of course people are waiting as well for the general election, which will see in February seismic political changes as a result of the catastrophic policies of Fianna Fáil and the Green Party.
What do you think protests like this can achieve?
It shows the enormous anger of ordinary people, and it shows that people themselves can come onto the streets, do not have to have politicians or anybody else speak for them, but can speak directly themselves.
But to what point?
And then go back and organise with their families, workplaces and trade unions particularly, to organise further and more widespread action. It is now essential, in my view, that in every workplace and in every trade union movement we have a discussion on and to organise a nationwide 24-hour stoppage general strike to stop this disastrous austerity policy in its tracks. That will be a lesson not just to the current government, but to the parties who want to be in the next government.
You said there's going to be seismic political change. What seismic political change? Fianna Fáil, Greens leave office, Fine Gael and Labour come into office. What's seismic about that?
Well, it is quite clear that Fianna Fáil will be wiped out. It was the premier party for capitalism in this state for many decades.
It won't be wiped out. They maybe have 30 to 40 seats.
By historical standards, they will be decimated. The Green Party, I expect to be annihilated, and quite rightly so, for their betrayal of the people who supported them in the past. Now, it is true then, of course, that Fine Gael and the Labour Party at present have largely the same programme of so-called adjustments as Fianna Fáil. Labour says it would do it over a longer period of time. So we have to have, in the course of the general election, a very honest debate to alert the Irish people to that fact. But happily, there will be a left alternative in this general election, a united left alternative, bringing together various left-wing organisations who can put up a credible challenge and have elected several members to the Dáil, in order then to spearhead a national movement of opposition, of people power outside the Dáil, which is critical to stop this disastrous policies.
No matter what you think of the budget, no matter what you think of the deal done by the EU and IMF, the reality now is there another alternative? There seems to be none. We have to go along with it, otherwise they cut off the funding.
No, there is an alternative. First of all, the tens of billions that are to be poured into the banks, and the tens of billions given back to the bondholders who speculated them wildly on bad gambles, should not be paid. We should not pay a cent.
But even if they're not paid, we still are living way beyond our means. There's a gap of 19 billion between what the state pays out and what the state gets in taxes and revenues. So there is this problem anyway. So what can we do?
What this government does is ignore the fact that there is substantial wealth in this society. 120 billion by the reckoning of the Bank of Ireland asset survey of some years ago, adjusted for present circumstances. There is also 50 billion euro made annually in profits, which are taxed at one of the lowest rates in Europe. So there's two examples, if you like, of where there are more resources. But critically, the financial institutions must be in full public ownership, but under democratic control and accountability, so we can direct investment into major infrastructural projects, and into services, etc.
I did not notice the financial institutions are in public ownership. And they have no money. So what are you talking about? They can invest in various projects to find jobs.
They were simply nationalised in order to bail out speculators.
It doesn't make any difference.
Yes, it does.
The fact is that they're now nationalised and they've no money.
No, yes,
so what
it
are you
does,
talking
because
about?
we want a financial system and financial structures in this country, but also in Europe, because let us remember, the Portuguese, the working class people, the Spanish, the Greeks, are all under the same massive pressure and savage attacks as the Irish working people at the present time. So we need to link up across borders, and we need to reorganise the financial structures in public ownership, democratic control. We can plan then for investment, for badly needed infrastructure and services that would create millions of jobs Europe-wide.
State control of the economy, which is what you're in favour of, has failed dismally elsewhere, almost as well, even worse than the failure of capitalism in the present crisis.
The crude Stalinist methods of organisation of society were bound to fail, as happened in Eastern Europe eventually, although at a certain stage the planned economy showed the potential that could be achieved had there been thoroughgoing democracy at all levels of society, which we want. It would have been an entirely different situation. But it's quite clear capitalism and the financial markets are a broken system, and it is absolutely ludicrous to think that that broken system can repair our economy and create a life and a future for our people and our youth.
How many people do you think are going to vote for the Left Alliance candidates in the next election?
I think there will be a substantial swing to the left. I think there will be up to 20 credible candidates.
And how many do you think will get elected?
It's quite possible to get a significant number elected.
What would a significant number be?
A significant number would be anything between 5 and 10 would be a very significant number. That would only be, I emphasise, the beginning of a major creation of a new mass opposition.
You'll have to do a bit better yourself in your own constituency this time than you did the last time.
Well, we go out, we are now in a constant dialogue with ordinary working people, unemployed, poor people, etc.
So you're always doing that.
We are explaining the alternative.
You always did that.
People do need an alternative. They are prepared to support an alternative. They will have their opportunity in February, but also that is not enough. People need to get organised in their workplaces, in their communities, mobilise people power. Look, this is a disastrous strategy. If they implement this, it will decimate the economy further. Unemployment will rise even further. Our services will be seriously damaged. The future of our children, the future of youth will be seriously damaged. They have to be stopped in their tracks. That's why people have to bring themselves into the reckoning here. People power must stop them now.
All right, thanks, Joe.